Canada's Auditor General says the federal government doesn't have a good handle on what's going on in its Arctic waters. In a recent report tabled on Tuesday, Karen Hogan says the agencies responsible for safety and security in the North don't have a clear picture of traffic in the region. She says Transport Canada and the Canadian Coast Guard aren't ready for the challenges that will come as climate change opens those waters to increased shipping and economic development. She says the issues include poor surveillance and vessel tracking, ineffective information sharing, and aging equipment. Well, joining us now to discuss the situation in the Arctic is Dr. Rob Huebert, Arctic expert and associate professor at the University of Calgary. Dr. Huebert, welcome back to Forum Daily.
My pleasure, Nima.
So, what was your main takeaway from the Auditor General's report?
Well, it confirms a lot of the stuff that many of us who have been observing what the government is trying to do is actually doing. I mean, as most people know, it's increasingly difficult to get concrete information out of any government. Most of them, this one in particular, has learned how to hide it, and so. I think the fact that we are seeing a very open, frank evaluation of just where we stand, and the picture, of course, that's painted is a very troubling one. When we start looking at some of the capabilities that we are talking about in terms of the maintenance of Arctic sovereignty and security, the Auditor General's report is quite damning on the lack of progress that we've seen.
Now, this report specifically highlights climate related challenges in the Arctic waters. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly these climate related challenges are?
Well, a major one, in a nutshell, is ice is melting. What we are expecting to see, and this has come out in several reports recently, is that the permanent ice that's in the Arctic will be gone. And at that point, we can expect a very rapid increase in activities in the region. You immediately think of shipping, and that's what the auditor refers to. But there's also the possibility of seeing an increase in activities such as fishing, in terms of also seeing increase in mining capabilities. In general, what the Auditor General's report is very accurate on is it is identified that the Arctic will not remain this environment in which no one can go, and therefore we haven't really had to worry about it. And with all these impacts coming because of climate change, never mind on the geopolitical side, the question that was raised in the report is: Are we ready? Do we have the facilities and the capabilities to proceed? And the answer that I read from the report is that the answer is no. And in fact, the Auditor General's report actually highlights certain areas where we'll probably be going backwards, such as in terms of satellite surveillance capabilities.
Now, that's really concerning to hear. So, if we're talking about solutions here, what are some ways to improve the surveillance of Arctic waters amid all of this?
Well, I think one of the things in reading between the lines on the report is if the government actually comes forward and fulfills what it says it's going to be doing. For example, we saw on a different note, we saw the defense minister saying that back in June that we're going to be increasing our surveillance capability in terms of satellite capabilities and over the horizon radar. And so we are constantly hearing this refrain of just wait, we'll look at what we're doing. But I think once again, the Auditor General's report, particularly the chapter that was looking at the successor to the RadarSat constellation, where it's laid out in pretty clear language that it's not at all clear that the government has a plan on replacing RadarSat, which is one of the most successful satellite systems that exist for Arctic observations, and particularly for ice cover and related, and that there isn't an active plan already in place or when the system reaches the end of its operational life, that we have something in place. And to do something such as satellite surveillance, replacing radar sat, it's not something you do over the course of a weekend, or well, I'm being facetious on the weekend, but it's something that takes a very long term and advanced planning. And the Auditor General's report suggests that that is not where we stand today.
Always an informative interview. I wish we could talk more on this, Dr. Huebert, but we are out of time. We'll have to bring you back, but thank you again for your time today.
I look forward to our next conversation.
Me too, sir. All right, we'll be right back after the break. And when we return, we're going to be taking a look at the major headlines and news stories from around the world. The G20 summit has ended with a closing statement condemning the war in Ukraine. Donald Trump officially launches a presidential campaign. Europe's central bank says a recession is likely. And NASA's moon rocket blasts off on a test flight. We'll have these stories and more up next, so stay tuned. Forum Daily will be back.